Hey, and welcome to our first episode of /n, which is all going to be about setting up Python. Now, I know that a lot of people that want to get into coding and data science probably don't have Python installed on their system. So this video is going to go through and teach you how to get it and how to get started writing some code. So there's a few things to keep in mind. For this, we're going to be using the terminal a little bit. It's called the terminal on my Mac, and it's similar if you're using Linux. If you're on Windows, it could be called the command prompt or PowerShell. They all do very similar things, and the Windows commands will just be a little bit different depending on exactly what you're doing. Here we've got the terminal, and we want to check if we've already got Python installed. So we can do this by typing python -- version, and we see here I've got Python 2.7, which is the Python version that comes with Mac. Now, we don't want Python 2, we actually want Python 3, which is what you're going to see everywhere. So we need to go and download that and get that Python 3 working. So to do that, we just open up a browser, as we've done here, and we go to, I've just Googled Python here, go to python.org. In python.org, we can go to downloads, and the top here, download Python, we're up to 3.10.0, which is the latest release, so we can download this. So let's go and see and look at my downloads here. And once this download, what we're going to do is we're going to install it. Double click here, and it should come up with this little installer. Just click through. All this is fine. It's going to install it on my thing. I'm going to say, there we go. And then we wait for it. And then once that's done, you'll have Python installed on your system. Install time less than a minute, nice and easy. The other thing that you can do is there's also, as you see in the background here, there's lots of other Python versions. So if you want a specific Python version, you can go there. Let's open up a new terminal. And if we go python -- version, we should see exactly the same thing, because the new version was installed under Python 3. So perfect, there we go. Python 3 is now Python version 3.10.0, which is exactly what we want. So we need to use the Python 3 command instead of the Python command to do this. So there we go, we've got Python. And you can actually write Python directly in your terminal here. So if you just type Python 3, you can see these are the details of Python. And now I've got this triple chevron prompt here, which is Python. That's all good to go, and you can just write quit to get out. The second thing that I want to talk about is an IDE, or integrated development environment. So this is something we're actually going to use to write your Python code. So for me, I use Visual Studio Code. So again, just Google VS Code and come to here where it says Visual Studio Code, and then, the big blue button, download. Nice and easy. Hopefully it won't take too long in our downloads. While waiting for this to download, a few things about Visual Studio Code that I think is really good. And you don't have to use Visual Studio Code. I think there's quite a few good IDEs out there. I really like it because I can write a whole bunch of different code, and I can set up exactly the way I want. So I use it to write other languages, and a lot of the extensions that we're going to cover a few today just make the quality of life so much better. So I really enjoy using VS Code. But again, you write with what you're most comfortable with. There's no right or wrong answer here. Here's our Visual Studio Code. We want to open it. Cool, and here it is, Visual Studio Code. So we don't need this getting started. And this is Visual Studio Code, right? What we want to do is we want to write a new file, right? Because Visual Studio Code can write any language, it's just an untitled file. But essentially here we can go select a language. There we go, Python. Here goes, and it's, do you want to install the recommended extensions for Python? So let's have a look at what the recommendations are. So the first one is Python. We should install this extension because it helps write better code, essentially. Talks about all of these things, helps you set up which Python version you're using, all this other stuff. So that's a really good one. While that's installing, the other one that I really like is to do with brackets. This bracket pair colorizer is really good because it just pretty much colors your brackets. So I recommend getting this one as well. And as you can see, if we get rid of this, there's heaps of very popular extensions and recommended extensions. Yeah, so we've got things like Docker, you've got Live Server, support for other languages, Git Lens, and a whole bunch of really amazing extensions here that will make you code so much better. That's how you get Python. So we should be able to go back to our Python, and we should be able to type something in here. So let's just use the print command and just print hello world. So what we want to do is we want to save it as a py file. So let's just call this hello world. And I'm just going to save it in my code directory. So let's save that. So there it is. And then what we want is we want to get a new terminal. So we just go terminal, new terminal, and here it is. And this terminal is exactly the same as this terminal. See, this is where it is. The only issue here is actually, this is not where we want to be. So we actually want to just change to here. Don't worry about this too much. This is just saying when you're running your script, you need to be in the same directory. And because I saved it in the code directory, I need to go into the code directory. So I should be able to just write Python 3, and then my script is called hello world.py. There we go. Hello world. And that's all you're going to be doing. I'll just close this for now. So up the top here is where you're going to be writing your code. So as we said, we just printed the sentence hello world. And down the bottom is where you're going to be saying Python 3, and then this is my script. that I want to run. So hello world.py, there it is. We can actually open my code folder and we say, yep, I trust the authors. And I've got a few things in here, but here's actually the hello world script there. And if we open a new terminal now, you can see that it actually is in the right place. So here we can just type Python 3, hello world, and there's the hello world there. So this is how you get set up with Python, downloading Python. And you can also see down the bottom, we're at Python 3.10.0, which is exactly what we expected. So this is how you can change if you have other Python interpreters and things like that. So I don't, because this is the only one I have, so where we're at. This is where all your files will be. So I've got a few directories here for things I'm working on, and this is the script we just made. And these are all additional features from VS Code that you can explore, but extensions is where you probably want to get started and install a whole bunch. One of the other things that you might want to do to make things a little bit easier is to set up a shortcut to get into Visual Studio Code. So to do this, we go to Command Palette, which is Shift Command P here, and we can type in code here, and we get this shell command, install code command in path. So click on this, we go okay, and then we log in this successfully. So what we can do now is that we can close Visual Studio Code and go back here to a new terminal. And what we can do with this new terminal, we can actually open VS Code directly from the terminal. So I'm just going to go back to that code folder, and then I can actually just type code and then dot, and it says open VS Code where I currently am. And boom, we're back to where we were before. So this is a great way to get into a directory with all your work in it straight away without having to worry about files and things like that. All right, so that is going to be it for today. Hopefully you've learned how to install Python and how to use VS Code. And I look forward to seeing you in the next episode where we'll look into a little bit more about the Python coding language.